בשם השם נעשה ונצליח, שיעור תורה, ברוכים הבאים, שבוע טוב, שבוע מבורך. Zat Hashem, today, starting off a new week, we're at Sha'arei Tzion. It's a Sunday, and Baruch Hashem, Shabbat was fantastic. Got some time to play with my kids, learn some Torah with little Ovadia, Baruch Hashem, and I wish it just stayed that way. I wish Shabbat just continued. But at some point it has to end while we're still in this world. And then we start finding out the bad news of what happened while we were in Olam Haba. And that's some of the things we're going to talk about today. I don't mean to depress you, but I have to share my misery. And since you guys are here, I'll have to share it with you. Because you're involved. So today's shiur is going to be another Jewish public warning message, like we had about 3 weeks ago. Going over some of those things again, as well as some new things, some new developments. Today's shiur will be for a refuah shlema for our dear friend Stefan ben Katarina, also for Doris Bajora, David ben Nesria, Levana bat Sarah, Sarah bat Levana, Esther bat Zipora, Batya bat Sarah, and all of Am Yisrael Bezrat Hashem will have refuah shlema, refuat hanefesh, refuat haguf. So for anyone who hasn't watched the other one that we had a few weeks ago, I believe it was December 15th for the Gregorian calendar. Since YouTube doesn't keep the Jewish calendar, I have to give you guys the Gregorian calendar. So December 15th, we published a shiur that was called Jewish Public Warning, and it talked about how our schools, whether they are the yeshivot in America, or in Canada, or in Europe, or wherever they are, our yeshivot unfortunately have been infiltrated quietly, peacefully, and unfortunately by the Christian missionaries as well as the Arab dawah messengers. And for all those that do not know, when we say kiruv, we're meaning lekarev rechokim. We're meaning to bring people that are far from Hashem closer to Hashem. Le'avdil, the Christians call that missionizing, and the Muslims call it dawah. So everyone tries to bring people closer to their religion. The difference is the Jews primarily focus on other Jews. That's the primary focus. There are about a few rabbis like myself, Rav Mizrahi, Rabbi Tovia Singer, and a few others that also try to help the rest of the world, the Noahides, if you will. All goyim are known as Noahides. That also try to help the Noahides get closer to Hashem, do tshuva, leave Christianity or Islam, because it's either idolatry or heresy. Regardless of what it is, it's not the Torah, it's not the Emet. I even got a letter, Motzei Shabbat, from a Muslim who says that he loves watching my shiurim. I love those messages because it shows you that Torah Emet infiltrates into every heart that's looking for the truth, Baruch Hashem. So, while the Jews primarily focus on other Jews, the Christians and the Muslims do the opposite. They primarily focus on non-Muslims and non-Christians. In fact, the Christians' primary focus is the Jewish people. That's their primary focus. Now, for anyone who knows a little bit about the world's population, and also a little bit about business, please don't walk in front of the camera. Anyone that knows that actually doesn't make that much sense. Why it doesn't make sense? Because right now there's somewhere in the neighborhood of 7.5 to 8 billion people in the world. And only about 14 to 20 million of them are Jews, known Jews. Which means that, let's say it's 20 million. When you say, let's say 7.9 billion, or you say 8 billion, you don't actually mean it's exactly 8 billion. It's approximately, meaning it could be 7.96 billion. And you round it off the last 40 million, which means that the 20 million Jews that we know about is not even a rounding error. Needless to say, it doesn't make much sense to invest all of your resources for your missionizing and bringing others to your religion on a minority that's not even a rounding error. From here we know, just from anyone that has a brain, that this has nothing to do with economics. This has nothing to do with a publicity of any kind. This has to do with the war of the world. The war of the world that started from the beginning of time, of good versus evil. Where HaKadosh Baruch Hu has Ze keneged ze bara Elokim. HaKadosh Baruch Hu created a good side, He created a bad side. He created a holy side, He created a impure side. Kedusha and Tum'ah. That's why anytime anyone tells me, listen, I'm buying a gun. Why? There's more terrorism. There's more anti-Semitism. I said, all the guns in the world are not going to help you fight the Tum'ah that's in the world. All the guns in the world. Why? Because it has nothing to do with bullets. The only way to beat anti-Semitism, the only way to beat the racism, the only way to beat the prejudice against the religious Jews, the only way to beat the anti-Torah attitude is by learning Torah. That's the only way. Learning Torah and publicizing it. These are the only two things that you can do in order to improve the world you live in. Why? Because that's the only two things that produce Kedusha, produce holiness. And holiness is the only thing that's strong enough to beat the Tumah, the impurity. Guns don't beat impurity. You can kill the guy from Iran 10 times over, him and all of his friends. Guess what? They all have sons. And their sons are usually more evil than the fathers. So you kill the sons. The sons also have sons. And guess what? Even if you kill the sons' sons, guess what? They have cousins. And they have other cousins and other people. And the Reshaim always replace each other. They thought that they're doing the world a favor when all types of evil left the world, whether it's Arafat or the guy from Venezuela or Castro. What do we find out? The guy that replaces him is much, much worse than the Paro that was there. Much worse. Same thing we learned in last week's parasha. Paro, no one ever thought that Paro was a nice guy. Paro is never known as a nice guy. Oh, I can't wait to see Paro. No one ever said that. But we were able to live with him at the time of Yosef. But then we find out in Parashat Shmot that there was a new Paro. And this Paro didn't remember Yosef. The guy that put you on the map, the guy that built the country, the guy that put you guys and made you into the richest country in the world, the new Paro forgot who Yosef is. What do you mean? How could you possibly forget the guy that actually took you from some third world country and made you the number one civilization in the world? How could you forget? Obviously he didn't forget. Chachamim say is that he wanted to forget. Why? I have no connection to this guy. So what, was the old Paro a nice guy? No. It's just the new one was much worse. New one was much worse. Never ever think that one evil, if you kill it, it's gone. You shoot him in the face and that's it. Okay, we solved all of the world's problems. It doesn't work that way. You know how many times we contemplated, you know what? You know, these missionaries, maybe we should hire a bunch of assassins, kill all the missionaries. And like, oh, wait a minute. Torah says, first of all, not allowed. Second of all, it's not going to help anything. Why? Because this is Tumah and Kedusha. This is when I first started. I was still Am'aret, didn't really know much. I figured maybe we could kill some people. Then I figured out it's not allowed. It says in Ten Commandments, do not kill. But, Rabotai Karim, the point is that shooting, buying guns, all of this stuff that people are doing today is the exact opposite of what we're supposed to do. The only way to beat the Tum'ah that's in the world is first and foremost, recognize that it exists. Open our eyes and realize clearly it exists. Some of it exists in our own homes. Some of it exists in our own hearts. Some of it exists in our schools. Some of it exists in our synagogues. Some of it exists in some top-performing rabbis. By performing, I mean by view counts. Some of it exists in our governments. Some of it exists in our books that are written recently. this tum'ah is everywhere. First, we have to recognize what's tum'ah and what's kedusha. Very easy. Tum'ah is anything that disagrees with the sages. Anything that anyone says, anything that anyone does that disagrees with what Torah says, what the sages told us over the last several thousand years, that's tum'ah. Somebody comes to you and says, listen, I think Yoshke, like the guy that told me today, I got a call from a missionary today, Shtabach Shimo. Started off the week strong. I got a call from a Christian missionary who was an Israeli Jew. Wanted to missionize me. He says, what do you think about Isaiah 53? I said, I think you're a missionary. That's what I think. In Isaiah 53, he says, you're a missionary. He goes, no, I'm not a missionary. Why you say that? I said, because the only missionaries mention that chapter. I said, what about Isaiah 52? What about 51? What about 50? What about 49? What about 48? 40? What about 1? How come you only mention that one? Why? Because missionaries mention that one. Because you're so ignorant, you think the entire Torah is judged by one chapter. Why? Who's the suffering servant? That's what they tell. Who's the suffering servant? Well, if you read all the other chapters before it, it tells you who the suffering servant is. It's Am Yisrael. That's who the suffering servant is. But since you skipped the first 52 chapters because you listened to your Christian missionizing teachers, they made it seem as if the entire world started at Isaiah 53, as if the 5 books of Moses are nothing. I'll tell you more about that wonderful conversation that I had. But the point is, Rabotai, is that we have to understand that there's tum'ah everywhere. Somebody comes to you and tells you that Yoshke is the Mashiach, or some rabbi is the Mashiach, that's alive or that's dead, or somebody tells you that you no longer need to do this mitzvah because it's not for this generation. That's tum'ah. That's impurity. Why? That disagrees with our Torah. That disagrees with our Torah. What's kedusha? Kedusha is something as simple as learning the Chumash with Rashi commentary so you understand what's going on. That's kedusha. Taking a shiur Torah and sharing it with your friends, assuming it's a kosher shiur. That's kedusha. Doing a mitzvah. That's kedusha. Taking a Kadosh Baruch Hu seriously. That's kedusha. Now, unfortunately, it's very rare to find Jews today that take a Kadosh Baruch Hu seriously when you really look under the hood. What I mean by that is that there are many Jews that look Jewish. They have the uniform on, that become the uniform in the last 150 years. Black and white became the Jewish uniform. Even though on Wall Street I also wore black and white, but for some reason they didn't call me a religious Jew back then. So people think that if you wear black and white, that's the Jewish uniform. If you have a shtreimel on, wow, you're a Haredi. You have tzitzit, you are a mekubal. Beard too, start kissing his hand. Many people look like that. Many people women have mitpachat or other types of kisui rosh. That doesn't necessarily make you a kosher Jew. What makes you a kosher Jew is how you live your life. What's in your heart? What comes out of your mouth? What do you allow in your ears? Now, Baruch Hashem, there was a Siyum HaShas, a huge event last week in New York. Almost 100,000 Jews gathered in a stadium in New York to celebrate the completion of the Shas by nearly 20,000 people, where they complete one daf of the Shas each day for a little over 7 years. Rav Chaim Kachlon, Rav Ephraim's father, also completed the Shas with his students, and they had a party in Israel. It's on our channel if anyone wants to see it. His lectures, people speaking in Hebrew, and so on. Baruch Hashem. Now, when such kedusha is produced, so many people learn the oral Torah, the foundation of our Torah, the Satan has to fight. Why? You just raised the stakes on me by having all of these people complete the Shas. A lot of kedusha was produced at such an event, even though there was a few things that weren't exactly kosher, a couple of people that they invited, politicians that are really anti-Torah. But let's put all of that aside. Generally speaking, the vast majority of the people there are not involved in all of this nonsense. They're involved in finishing the Shas. They toiled every single day for a little over 7 years to complete the Shas. That's very hard work. Not necessarily that it's hard to finish the page, but to commit every single day for 7.5 years, most people can't commit to 3 shulim a week. Most people can't commit. You get people to commit for 7.5 years, every single day, no breaks. It's a huge commitment. So anyone that completed, Chazaku Baruch. But when you produce such high level of Kedusha in America, in Israel, in Europe, and all over the world people do this, the Satan has to raise the stakes also. And the only way that we can fight it is by first and foremost acknowledging that it exists. So a few weeks ago I told you guys that we have Tum'ah inside our schools, inside our yeshivot nonetheless, inside our Jewish schools, our Hebrew schools, whatever they call themselves these days. All of these types of Jewish schools have Tum'ah in them, unfortunately, because many of them are falling asleep when it comes to the fight against Esav and Ishmael. Excuse me. Where many people do not think it's a danger to have Mustafa or Peter teach in a Jewish school. And many times when I find out that people have started developing some type of doubts on Judaism, on the Torah, and they were brought up in the yeshiva system, 99% of the cases, and I only say 99 because I don't remember all of them, but all the ones that I remember, 100% of them, it started with a teacher that was either Christian or a Muslim or an atheist. That's where the first thought came. The atheist teacher told me maybe there's no God. If there was a God, then who created God? Or all types of questions that a 13, 14, 15-year-old can't manage unless he learned this stuff. Oh, how come Yoshke is not the Mashiach? How come he's not God? My teacher told me. What do you mean your teacher told you? Yeah, she's such a nice lady. She's a nice Christian lady, and she believes in God, but she believes that God became... What? She's teaching in a yeshiva? Yeah, but it's much better than my last yeshiva. My last yeshiva was telling me that I should kill Jews. I said, how come? Oh, because Mustafa says to kill Jews. Muhammad, that didn't know how to read or write, he says to kill Jews. Why? Because they're hiding under a tree, and he says, the Muslim, the Yahud is over here. That's what it says in the Quran. The Quran says that the rock screams to the Muslim, is Muslim. Come, there's a Yahud, there's a Jew hiding behind me. This is a teaching in the Quran. This is why, Rabotai, En Shalom, Hashem Amar LaReshaim. Hashem says there's no peace when it comes to Reshaim. That means, Rabotai, there's no such thing as religious unity. I'm not saying you could go to war with every Muslim or go to war with every Christian, but to be on the same podium as religious Christians or religious Muslims is antithetical to Judaism. Why? Because our books, what does our Torah say? Our Torah says Jews are the chosen people. The rest of the people, as long as they're not idol worshippers, they can go to Olam Haba, they can go to heaven. Why? If they keep the Noahide laws, Baruch Hashem, they go to heaven. But if they're idol worshippers, needless to say, they go to Gehenom. What do their books say? The New Testament, for anyone who hasn't wasted their life reading it, says that at the end of times, only 144,000 Jews will be left in the world. The rest of them are either going to become Christians or they're going to be destroyed by their Yoshke. Why? Because Judaism is falsehood. It's the religion of the Satan. That's what the New Testament says. So that means your friend Peter, your friend Paul, your friend Mark, and your friend John, what do they say? They believe you're a child of the Satan. Now, your friend, that's really your friend in this world, that doesn't actually know his own New Testament, he's like a secular New Testamenter. He's like a secular Christian, Mechalet Shabbat Christian. That guy, he doesn't probably know all this stuff. But if he says he's religious, that's actually what he's supposed to believe. In fact, the number one way to show that you're a religious Christian is by being a missionary. If you're not a missionary, you're not a religious Christian. So that means that if you're inviting a religious Christian like Mirvis, our Rasha Merusha Rabbi from London, when he brings all these popes and reverends and so on to his synagogue, he's inviting religious Christians that believe what? That the New Testament is true. And what does the New Testament say? The New Testament says the Jews are the children of Satan. Calls us the Pharisees. The rabbis are the Pharisees. That's what the New Testament says. On the other hand, the Quran, I know many Muslims that are very nice people and many Christians that are very nice people. But interestingly enough, none of those people are religious. They're Christians, but they're not religious Christians. They're Muslims, but they're not religious Muslims. How do I know? Because they don't know their own book. The Muslims doesn't know that his own book says he's supposed to kill Jews. On one part of the Quran it says Jews are good, they're the chosen people. Musa, peace be upon him. Ibrahim, peace be upon him. But then it says, hey, Muslim, the Jew is hiding, kill him. What? What happened? Well, you change your mind? So that means, Rabotai, if your friend Mustafa or Muhammad is just a regular Muslim, that's a nice guy, no problem. But if is he religious? He's a religious Muslim? You have a problem. Why? He believes that at some point he has to kill you. Now, if he doesn't, if he says, I'm a religious Muslim, but I don't believe I should kill you, then guess what? His people are going to kill him. Why? He's called a kufir. He's called a kufir. He's called a heretic in his own religion. Why? Because that's what it says. That's what it says in the book. Now, why do I mention all of this to you guys? To have these people, to have the religious Christian, to have the religious Mustafa, the religious Muslim, teaching secular studies or religious studies or anything in your religious Jewish school. How many of you think it's a good idea? By a raise of hands. I'm the only one raising my hand. Oh, because I don't want to be myself. No one thinks it's a good idea. Well, guess what? It's in almost every single Jewish school. Now, if that's not bad enough, we see that the atheism and lefty liberalism is as bad or worse than what I just said that's happening in the religious schools. In Eretz Yisrael, there was recently a Rav that came out and discussed the new choveret, the new notebook, workbook study that they teach, kindergarten kids, pre-first grade, 5-year-olds, 4-year-olds. This is what they teach. They have this workbook, has drawings on it. And one kid says, my life is very interesting. My Ima hasn't found a Abba yet. So it already teaches the kid, if you don't have an Abba, you only have one parent, it makes your life interesting. Why? It's unusual. Then the next page says, my life is even more interesting. My Ima has another Ima, and I have 2 Imas. One Ima is a doctor, and one Ima is a lawyer, and they're both my Ima. And then the third kid says, oh, my life is even more interesting. I have 2 Abbas. One Abba is a mechanic, and one Abba is a chef. I have 2 Abbas. Now, does anyone say, my life is more interesting, I have an Abba and an Ima? No. Why? Because the next part of the book says, this is what makes life interesting, because if everyone had a regular life, life would be boring. Already starting to teach the little kids in Eretz Yisrael in a secular school. Already starting to teach them from childhood, before he even knows how to pick underwear. Before he knows anything, that to be different is good. Go against the norm. Go against the tide. Don't go for opposite gender marriage. That's not normal. That doesn't make any sense. What, a guy marrying a girl? That doesn't make any sense. The publisher decided it doesn't make any sense. I wish his parents thought that also, because then he wouldn't be in the world. If he had two Abbas and 2 Imas, he wouldn't be here. But this is what they're teaching in Israel. We think Israel is only in the only place. In Europe also. In some parts of America also. In some parts of Canada also. This is all over the world, Rabotai. They are brainwashing kids already at a young age, at an age where they don't know the difference between right and wrong, that same-sex marriage is a good thing. In Europe, in London, they have a special class where a transgender, disgusting human being comes to teach 4-year-olds about life. And it became an obligation to teach same-sex marriage in every single school. The school gets closed down. Now, if that's not bad enough and doesn't make you vomit yet, let's go further. If our schools are not bad enough, what else do we have going on in the world today? Now, sadly, most Jews today are ignorant of the Torah. They actually do not know very much about Torah. And sadly, that is referring to both religious and non-religious. This is causing the missionary world to run wild. Now, I've been trying to warn people about the Christian missionaries for the last 4 or 5 years. Baruch Hashem, we've succeeded in helping many people leave Christianity. But, unfortunately, the Christians have succeeded much more than we've succeeded because they're much bigger and they have much more going in their direction. Aside from money, where when they donate for every $5, people donate to me, they donate 5 billion to the Christians. Just so you understand the difference here. There's a little bit of a difference, a little bit. When we have a campaign trying to raise money for new CDs to educate the world, we get a few $1,000s. Christians don't have campaigns. Why? There's a few $1 million coming in every minute. By itself, automatic. Now, the Jewish world has become so ignorant that the second that a Christian comes, a Christian missionary comes to them and tells them, who is the suffering servant in Isaiah 53? Who are they talking about in Daniel 9? How come it says in Genesis, let's make man in our image? And all of these questions that unless you learn this, you don't know the answer. But if you have real emunah in Hashem, if you have real knowledge in general, it won't disturb your emunah. It's like, okay, I don't know the answer, but I'll go ask my Rav. The problem is when you're ignorant, you also don't have real emunah. Everything that comes out that you don't know shakes you up. So what happens? The guy says, you know what, I really don't know. Who is it? He asks the Christian, who is it? And the Christian goes to town on him. He goes, yeah, this is the hidden chapter. The rabbis are hiding it. You never heard about it. What do you mean never heard it? It's in every Tanakh. Well, how do you know about it? It's in our Tanakh. How would it be a hidden chapter? You want to read it? V'chavod, go read it. There's commentary on it to no end. But the Christian makes you think that this is some big secret. Now, how come this has been working to the magnitude of converting over 500,000 Jews to Christianity in the last 20 years? 500,000 Jews is a lot. So you know, we're not Christians that have 2.5 billion. We got 20 million at best. 500,000, talking about 2.5% of our population. You do that every 10 years, before you know it, there's no Jews. So now, how did this happen? Because we're ignorant. That's reason number one. We do not know Aleph Bet. We do not know the real deal of what comes in our Torah. So today, I got a gift. What was the gift? Somebody sends me a message, like I get about 300 to 400 messages a day, Baruch Hashem. And I got a message, and this one was in Hebrew, and he says, can you please speak? I said, no, please send me a message. Oh, I got your number from Rabbi Lasri, and he said, you could talk to me. So I figured if another rabbi that I know referred him, maybe this is something that may need my attention. Okay, so I called. I fell for the trap. So I started talking to this guy in Hebrew, And he says, yeah, he said, maybe you have some answers for me. And I said, okay, what question do you have? I'm figuring maybe it's halacha, maybe it's chumash, maybe it's this. Things that I deal with, maybe shlom bayit, who knows? He starts off, he goes, what are they talking about in Isaiah 53? I said, Hashem Yachem, you're a missionary? He goes, no, I'm not a missionary. I'm not a missionary. Why you say a missionary? I said, because you're a missionary. I'm not a fool. No, who are they talking about? I said, just read 52. It says who they're talking about. Read 51, read 50, read 49, read 48. Read every other chapter. It says who the suffering servant is. What are you wasting my time right now? No, I just have some questions. Okay, so I continue talking to this guy. Wasted about 15, 16 minutes of my life until I came to the conclusion that this guy is not only a missionary, but he gave me information that I'm sorry to tell you guys. I'm really sorry to tell you. But you're all in danger. You are all in danger, the worst danger that you've ever faced in your life. You don't even know it, which is so sad. There's a company that's by far the most dangerous missionary company on the planet, especially for Israeli Jews, that just discovered that Hollywood and this southern part of Florida is prime target for missionizing. Now, I spoke about this company. It's run by a couple of Israelis, 3 specifically. Now, these people are smart. These people are clever. They're extremely well-spoken. They're very, very well learned. And they have a budget of infinity, which means that every single video they come up with is like Hollywood. You know why? Because Hollywood is on their side. Some of their clients, some of their customers, some of their victims are Hollywood elite. In fact, some of their victims are also in the White House. Some of their victims are also on Donald Trump's payroll. Some of their victims are also people that are leading the media. And every single one of them is Jewish. Very, very powerful Jewish people that have converted to Christianity and are publicizing it day in, day out by the millions. You're talking about tens of millions of views each month per video. Now, I spoke to you guys about this company some time ago in hopes that people will find out, stay away from danger, and that Hashem will have mercy on us. Because every time you rebuke people, it's a schut for the nation. When there's no rebuke, no one talks about something bad, Hashem makes it worse. When there is rebuke, when someone speaks out and fights against something, then it gives merit to the whole nation. Apparently it wasn't enough. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu is picking up the stakes. He's decided to send Hashem Yirachem Aleinu, the most powerful, most dangerous missionizing organization on the planet, to here, South Florida. And I don't even have to tell you who they are because you're going to find out soon. And if you're not strong with your emunah in Hashem, if you're not 100% an expert when it comes to the 13 principles of faith, if you're not an expert in understanding that there is a reward and punishment for every human being, needless to say for every Jew, they'll eat you up alive. Every belief you will have, they will show you are wrong, even though you are right, but you're wrong. Why? They're better debaters than you are. They'll debate every rule you have, from your Shema Yisrael to your Tefillin, from your marrying one woman to your same-sex, non-sex, doesn't make a difference. Whatever you have, they could destroy it. Anything you have. In fact, they'll convince you that God is a human being from verses in the Torah. They're wrong. 100% wrong. Complete nonsense made up. But they'll convince you. They'll convince you. If you're not an expert in knowing what Torah is, they'll convince you even if you've been religious your whole life. And they found out apparently that there's a very large community of ignorant Israeli Jews that live in South Florida. So they're coming to visit you. Hashem Yirachem Aleinu, what happens when they arrive? I spoke to one of their victims. They're so good that one of their victims already became a missionary himself. Now usually you make somebody do tshuva, you celebrate when he tells you, I just kept my first Shabbos. I just kept my first Shabbos. Baruch Hashem, Rabbi, you changed my life. The guy gets married. Ishtabach Shimo to a Jew. Wow. Puts on tefillin. Amazing. Learns Torah a few times a week. This guy's a tzaddik. You get it here and there, little by little, once in a while. You get big ones, but average guy, one step at a time. These guys succeeded in a simple post, in a simple conversation with one Israeli Jew to completely destroy everything he's believed for over 40 years. He stopped putting on tefillin. He now goes to the beach on Shabbat with his family. He doesn't believe in anything that Torah says. And if that's not bad enough, he's now missionizing for them, and he called me today. When you do not know enough Torah, the tum'ah can eat you up. The impurity can eat you up and turn you into an apikos, turn you into a heretic, turn you into an idol worshiper. This is why I beg you to start taking the Torah much more seriously. Whatever you're doing, do more. Why? Gog Magog already started. It started in a spiritual way. And anyone who does not get stronger is not going to survive the war. As the sages tell us in the Gemara, who is going to survive? Only the ones that are righteous. What does it mean righteous? The ones that are glued to Hashem. The ones that are glued to Hashem. Now, how come so many of us are ignorant when it comes to Torah? Anyone who watched the shiur last week knows that I mentioned that part of the reason is waste of life speakers. Waste of life speakers that lie to the people. Now, because they're so good at being reshaim, they continue producing more material. And our dear Machtia Rabim, Manis Friedman, Shem Reshaim Yirkav, came out with a new video, but now he has a friend. He came out with a new video on Motzei Shabbat, him and another Rabbi, Shai Taub. And they both destroy Judaism one piece at a time. For an hour straight, anyone that knows any Torah simply becomes stupid. Anyone who doesn't know Torah becomes a missionary like them. For an hour, they're destroying the Torah while drinking coffee. That's the show. It's called Talking About Hell While Drinking Coffee. And Manis tells them, okay, so what is this hell? And they go, first 15 minutes or so, you pretty much get the message, or even the first 10 minutes is a complete waste of time. After that, next 6 minutes tells you what the rest of the video is going to be about. And then after that, you're just simply wasting brain cells. Simply, what do they say? They say that the, what's hell? We understand heaven is a good place. Okay, get it. We don't need description. Anyone need description for heaven? No one really cares. It's better than this. Okay, great. That's why even the Gemara doesn't give you much details about heaven, because you don't even know what's good at. But hell, we understand. Bad. Well, we don't want bad. What's bad? Yeah, he says there's no such thing as hell. There's no such thing. No such thing as suffering. What's the point of eternal suffering? Why would Hashem put anyone in eternal suffering? What's the point? So then Friedman says, okay, yeah, but I want to play devil's advocate, meaning I want to be the other side. So what about when it says, like, there's a river of fire? Did you ever hear the river of fire? So tub, this looks more like, He says, yeah, how's the Nar Dinur, the river of fire? Oh, yeah, of course. You know what that is? It gives a chidush. Chidush that no one in the world ever said before. Why? All of the other chachamim that discuss this Nar Dinur, they say, Hashem Yerachem, what this is. This is made from the tears of all the people that suffer and go into fire. And Hashem Yerachem, what it says. No, but Tab over there, he says, no. What happens is, because you died, and time passed. So, after you died, time passed, Hashem wants to make it even better for you. So to move from level A to a better level B, you have to forget what you learned in level A. So that's why you have to go to this river of fire. And it's uncomfortable to forget. Transition. Anyone that moves houses, is that comfortable moving houses? So it's like that, uncomfortable. Because why? Because you go into a better place in heaven. Oh, so no one goes to hell, no one suffers? No, why? What would be the point? What would be the point? So what happens when a speaker like Friedman and now his buddy tell the world at large and get thousands and thousands of followers and viewers to listen to this tum'ah? What happens in the world? Now, Rabotai, anyone that listens to such a thing, automatically, without them even knowing, without them even acknowledging, without them even noticing, automatically destroys their desire to do tshuva. Automatically. Why? Because in so many words in an hour, what did they do? They told you that no matter if you're Hitler, or if you're Osama bin Laden, or if you're Mechalel Shabbat, or if you're go with a married woman that's not your wife, or whatever you are, or you're a tzaddik, Moshe Rabbeinu, you're going to heaven anyway. There's no punishment whatsoever. And the only uncomfortable part is when you go to a better heaven. But by default, we're all going to heaven. So now, let me ask you a question. If all of you knew, I'm telling an honest question. I'll raise my hand also. If all of you knew that no matter what you do, you're going to heaven, how many of you are going to keep Shabbat? Liar. If all of you knew that you go to heaven no matter what, and you have an opportunity to rob a bank for $60 billion, and no one's going to do nothing to you, how many of you don't rob the bank? Or at least you're honest about that, Baruch Hashem. Well, you want to be a liar, the first liar? Liar. Rabotai, without punishment, no one is keeping a single mitzvah. How many of you, if the transit system here in Florida says from now on there's no speed limit, drive wherever you want, however you want, how many of you are going to continue driving 50 miles an hour? Nobody. Why? Because sometimes you're in a hurry and you want to drive faster. If they said in the government from now on there's no punishment for stealing, you ever going to pay for anything again? Why should I? Without punishment, Rabotai, there is no order whatsoever in the world. When these two clowns that call themselves rabbis from Chabad tell people that no matter what you do, you're going to heaven, and the fire is just simply a transition from one heaven to a better one, you simply destroy people's free will. You destroy people's desire to do tshuva. Because now that I know that there's no punishment, what's the point? Now, let me ask you guys a question. Who's going to know more? Rabbi Taub and Friedman from today, or Rabbeinu Yonah from 800 years ago, who was the cousin of the Ramban and is considered one of the foremost sages for Klal Yisrael in history? Who's going to know more about Torah, mitzvot, tshuva nonetheless? Who's going to know more? Raise hands if you think Friedman knows the most. You think what? Okay, fired. Who thinks Tub, the Tub guy? Top guy knows the most? He definitely thinks top knows. Who thinks Rabbeinu Yonah knows more than everybody else? Okay, so let's see. You know what? Just to make sure we're not lying, because sometimes we can manipulate people, right? Because we're good speakers. I brought you the book that Rabbeinu Yonah brought. I brought you the book so you can read it for yourself, and let's just see what Rabbeinu Yonah says. He wrote a wonderful book. He was born in 1180 to the Gregorian calendar, almost 800 years ago. And like I said, he was the one of the Rishonim, which is one of the main sages that Klal Yisrael had in the last 1,000 years. He was also related indirectly to the Ramban, learned under him as well. All of the books that you read today or hear about, whether it's the Chafetz Chaim about Lashon Hara, or it's the Musar of Mesilat Yesharim, or any of those books, all of them have this book as the source. There's no Musar book. There's no Musar book that doesn't quote this book. This is the Tshuva book. You want to know anything about Tshuva? This is it. This is it. It's called The Gate to Repentance in English. In Hebrew, it's called Sha'arei Tshuva. Now, I'm not going to read you the whole book. It's going to take a little longer. But I'll read you a few things. Let's see. First thing he says. Now, it's part of Hashem's kindness to his creatures. This is just outright beginning. It's part of Hashem's kindness to his creatures that he prepared for them the way to rise above the lowliness of their deeds and flee the ensnarement of their sins, to save their souls from perdition and turn his anger away from them. Now, which word do you connect to the word anger? Like fun or fire? What's more connected to anger? Anger doesn't usually go with fun, right? Okay, so now he says, out of his great goodness and upright, Hashem taught his creatures and admonished them to return to him when they sin. For he knows their inclination, meaning Hashem knows that we have an evil inclination, but it doesn't mean that we're allowed to sin. So he says, it's clear that tshuva is acceptable, even if the sinner repents under great duress, and surely if he repents through the fear of Hashem and his love for him. So, Rabbeinu Yonah starts off by saying, listen, your tshuva is welcomed by Hashem, even if your tshuva comes under bad conditions, meaning you got sick, that's why you did tshuva, you lost all your money, that's why you did tshuva, bad stuff's happening to you, and that's why you did tshuva. Rabbeinu Yonah says, Hashem wants it. Why? That's why he made you have all that bad stuff happen, because he wants you to do tshuva. Now, in the second chapter, he says, know that when one has sinned, it delays his tshuva, and his punishment becomes increasingly harsher day by day. Every single time we make a sin, that puts our tshuva on hold. And while it's on hold, what does it mean it's on hold? It means that the good stuff stays where it is, and the punishment increases. Hashem has an account for all of us. He has a reward account and a punishment account. Now, when you're not doing tshuva, you made a sin. Obviously, you're not going to get a reward. Like Friedman says, you're not going to get a reward for the bad stuff. What do you get? You get a punishment. So he says outright, punishment becomes increasingly harsher. Not just increases, but the punishment gets worse. Day by day. Now he can free himself from this, but if he doesn't, it shows that he does not fear the pending fury and anger that Hashem will bring upon him, Hashem Yirachim. Consequently, the ills that await for him are great. As our sages have taught us in Kohelet Rabbah, chapter 7, verse 15, this can be compared to a gang of thieves who were incarcerated by a king. And they started digging underground and broke through it, but one of them stayed behind. So when the prison warden came and caught this guy and brought him to the king, the guy that was left behind says, look, King, your highness, I stayed behind. Shouldn't I get a reward for it? And the king starts giving him a bigger beating. Gives him a much more punishment. Because why am I getting more punishment? He says, I gave you a way of getting out. Tshuva is breaking out of the jail. When they broke out of the jail, that's like symbolic of us doing tshuva, because we made the sins. So Hashem created tshuva. Tshuva is what? Getting away with the sins. How? By stopping and saying, I'm sorry. Now, did the sins go away really? No, the sins exist. But Hashem gave us a get out of jail free card. You don't use it, you end up getting a bigger punishment. Delaying one's repentance is only found among the ignorant, because they act lethargically. You know, it's like one of those people, we tell them, come on, let's wake up, we got to go to Minyan. No, later, I'll pray later. I'll pray tonight, this afternoon I'll pray. Afternoon. Okay, there's a shiur tonight. What? Shiur? Nah, it's late. What do you mean it's late? You go to sleep at 9 o'clock? No, but it's late, I'll watch it on YouTube. No, I don't feel like going all the way. What, do you have to carry the car on your back? Why is it so hard for you to go to the shiur? We're going to a game instead. Oh yeah, whoops, push the clothes on. Yalla, which game are we going to? The game, no problem. Play video games, no problem. Go to shiur Torah, problem, all the time. They have food, they have snacks? Okay, I'm coming. So now, a person that acts lethargically shows his ignorance. What ignorance of what? Ignorance of the reward? No. Ignorance of the punishment. That's all Rabbi Yonah is talking about so far. He's not even talking about a single ounce of reward yet. We're in chapter 3. Then Rabbi Yonah says, they do not take their situation to heart, and they're lacking intelligence and insight to save their own soul. And there are those among them who are even farther removed before Hashem. There are even people that are worse than the lethargic people, who do not believe in the consequence of sin is punishment. He says there's one person that's like half a tshuva. He keeps Shabbat sometimes, doesn't keep Shabbat. Kosher sometimes, doesn't kosher. He says he watches his bleed, but sometimes he doesn't. All time. People that are like lethargic. With mitzvah, it's like they're doing you a favor. But then he says there are people that are even worse than them. Who are these people? People who simply believe Friedman. The worst people, he says, people do not believe in punishment at all. That's what he says. There are those among them who are even further removed from before Hashem and do not believe that consequence of sin is punishment. In Hebrew, it's v'yesh mehem nidachim me'al Hashem baruch hu lo ya'aminu le'onesh achet. People that do not believe there's punishment. That is the worst condition. That, like, if we give you an analogy, if that's, let's say, for example, a person is in ICU, Baruch Hashem, has spent many, many weeks in intensive care unit in hospitals, it's not fun. I don't wish on anybody to go there. But I can tell you a little bit of experience. You go there, you're trying to fight for your life. Once in a while, the guy next to you doesn't make it. You know how you know he doesn't make it? Because for you, it says, toot, 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 toot. You know what that toot is? That means you're alive. That means that toot, that annoying toot, that means you're alive. But if it starts going toot, that means he died. And that's what happens in ICU. That's what Rabbi Yonah says, people that do not believe in punishment, that's that toot. That's a person died, spiritually dead. And yet he calls himself a teacher. Chapter 4. Furthermore, one has to contemplate the grave harm he has done when he delayed his own tshuva. Had he not delayed it, by now he would have repented already. As Shlomo HaMelech says in Mishlei, in Proverbs chapter 26, verse 11, Kekelev shav al keo, ksil shoneh be'ivalto. Like a dog who returns to his vomit, so does a fool repeat his foolishness, meaning his sins. Now, there's many sources in the Torah that talk about fear of Hashem and purely fear of punishment. David HaMelech, who was as close to Hashem as you could humanly become, writes in Tehillim countless times. One of the examples is in Psalm 112, verse 1. Fortunate is the man who fears Hashem. Ashrei ha'ish yireh et Hashem. He starts the Tehillim that way. But Rabbeinu Yonah gives a chidush. He says, praiseworthy is the man who fears Hashem. Hence, look at that it says, praiseworthy is the man. Meaning, while he's still a man, that the intent of this Tehillim, the intent of what David HaMelech is trying to teach us there, is that a person should repent, should do tshuva, while they're still youthful, while they're still young like you guys. Not when they're 7-year-old old people. Why? You know how hard it is to do tshuva at 7 years old? Not only do you have to change 70 years of things that you're used to, but on top of it, you have to make up for 70 years worth of crimes. Worth if you do tshuva when you're 20, 25, 35, 40 years old, you do tshuva at that age, it's not that much to make up. Okay, you made some crimes, good, but you have enough time to make up for it. But you wait, you delay, no, I'll do it later. You're not fortunate, to say the least. Now, he then gives us different principles, different stages of tshuva. First stage, first principle he calls it, Ha'ikar HaRishon. This is, without this, there's no tshuva. This is first one. Ha'ikar HaRishon, acharata. The first principle is regret. What regret? He must impress upon himself that there exists punishment and reprisal, and that one's transgressions will be paid for. Meaning there's nothing for free. You made a crime against Hashem, you ate non-kosher, you were intimate before marriage, you wasted seed, you looked inappropriately, you acted inappropriately, you stole, you cheated, you lied. He says, everything has to be paid for. As it says in Sefer Dvarim, Deuteronomy chapter 32, verse 35, Li nekam Hashem, Li nekam v'shilem, mine is the vengeance and recompense. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, mine is the vengeance and recompense. Meaning, you did something, you have to pay for it. Unless you do tshuva. And Job says in 1929, dread the sword, for anger against sin brings the sword. What have I done? How could I have acted without the fear of God before me, a person says. How was I not afraid of the Torah's remonstrations against sin and the terrible punishments? For great is the suffering of the wicked. Rabbi machovim la rasha, huge suffering the wicked get. This is also Tehillim 32:10. I showed no compassion to my body, and my eyes did not pity its eventual destruction due to a fleeting moment of pleasure. Worse than this, I have treated my precious soul cruelly, and has been defiled by the excrement of my Yetzer Hara. The filth of my Yetzer Hara is what led me to make all of these sins, but unfortunately, if I didn't do tshuva, that's not going to help me. Feeling bad for it. The feeling bad only starts in this world. Now what happens to people that lie to Am Yisrael, especially when it comes to Torah? The Gemara, Masechet Shabbat, last chapter, last couple of pages, gives a pasuk that comes from the book of Samuel, chapter 1, Samuel 1, chapter 25. Ve'et nefesh oivecha yikal'ena betoch kafa kala. Avigail says to David HaMelech, you know what's going to happen to all your enemies? All of your enemies are going to be shot like a stone from a slingshot. So Chazal says, what do we learn for this? He goes, this is a place called Kafa Kela. This is before Gehenom, where there's angels of death that slingshot the soul from one end of the earth to the other end of the earth while they're beating it with fire whips. This is in the Gemara. This is not Yaron Reuven. This is David HaMelech. So you tell me, which part of this sounds like Gan Eden to you? Which part of this sounds like a nice, pleasant experience, like Friedman and company said? Doesn't sound so amazing, right? I don't know. That's what I was getting. I kind of thought maybe you guys are going to give me a chidush. You're not getting it. Okay, fine.
Maybe this is the progress to the next level.
So now, Rabbi Nachman Breslev had a Talmid called Rabbi Natan. Rabbi Natan gives a interesting insight. He says there are certain people that you have to give them kaf zchut, and there are certain people you don't have to give kaf zchut to. Meaning there are certain people you have to give them benefit of the doubt, and there are certain people you don't have to give benefit of the doubt. Meaning somebody makes a mistake, stepped on your foot. You need to give him the benefit of the doubt. He didn't mean to. He didn't mean to. You got into an argument with your spouse, and they said something inappropriate. They didn't really mean to hurt you. It's just that it was their emotions got the best of them. So don't hold it against them for the rest of their life. It's not a good thing. So you got to give people the benefit of the doubt. Rabbi Natan here says from Breslev, Chassid, Kadosh, he says there's even a story of a certain Rebbe that accepted a known murderer into his keilah. A guy that was a known murderer wanted to do tshuva. And this Rebbe gave him an opportunity and he ended up doing tshuva. But Rabbi Natan says a fantastic chidush. This is the Breslev, you know, the people that you guys know him as the breakdancers. Real Breslev doesn't breakdance, by the way. What does he say? He says the following. עם כל זאת צריכים לזכור מה שאמר רבנו זיכרונו לברכה, ספר המידות, אות מריבה, סימן פ"ח. אין מלמדים זכות על המסית. מי שמסית ומדיח את הזולת להתרחק מהיהדות, עליו אין שום לימוד זכות, ולא רק זה, אלא שאמר רבנו זיכרונו לברכה, אל תדבר עם המסיתים אפילו להוכיחם ולקרבם. He says, there is no kaf zchut, there's no benefit of the doubt whatsoever that you ever give to a person that gets people further from the emet, further from Hashem, further from the Torah. You don't give them any benefit of the doubt. You're not allowed. He says, as we learned, someone that causes people to get away from Judaism, whether he's a Christian missionary, a Muslim imam, or he's Friedman and company and the rest of his followers, that tell people that there's no punishment, he says, these people, you're not allowed to give them benefit of the doubt. In fact, you're not even allowed to rebuke them directly. You're not even allowed to talk to them and try to fix them. Why? If he's causing people away to go to get away from Hashem, to get away from the Emet, he doesn't deserve that kindness. But what about the murderer? ולכן צריכים לדון אותו לכף זכות. מה שאין כן במסית ומדיח נגד הקדוש ברוך הוא. He says the murderer, even though halachically, you're not allowed to give a murderer a kaf zchut. But he says, there is a story and there is an opinion somewhere out there that you could possibly give zchut to an actual murderer. There is. Not everybody agrees with it. And halachically, you're not supposed to give them a zchut. Not supposed to give them a benefit of the doubt. But he says there is an opinion like that. It exists in the world. But there is no opinion whatsoever that says you give the benefit of the doubt to someone that gets people away from the Torah. Someone that gets people away from the Emet. There's no kaf zchut whatsoever. Forbidden, like eating pork. So now, we, Rabotai, have a situation where shiurim like this in the English language almost do not exist. You have only a couple of rabbis in the entire world that speak English that call things as they are. And Rabbi Ephraim says this is one of the key ingredients that's missing at the time before Mashiach. The fire that's necessary for Torah. Now, when you tell people, listen, you have to tell people what it says in the Torah. Somebody that violates Shabbat, HaKadosh Baruch Hu considers him an idol worshiper. Like the guy that prays to Buddha. like the guy that prays to a cow, and the guy, this nice Jewish guy that drives on Shabbat, in Hashem's eyes, they're doing the same exact thing. He worships an idol, he worships an idol. Hashem does not distinguish between the two. They're both going to get punishment. You have to tell people this. Yeah, but if I tell him, maybe it's going to turn him off. Maybe it's going to turn him off. Maybe he's not going to want to come to shul anymore. So let's see what the sages says. Gemara, Masechet Yoma, page 52b. Talks about different issues. And he uses the verse from Sefer Bereshit, where HaKadosh Baruch Hu talks to Cain. And it says there's two different ways of understanding this verse. But needless to say, for our purposes, it stays the same. What did HaKadosh Baruch Hu say to Cain? Cain brought a korban, a sacrifice to Hashem, and Hevel also brought a korban to Hashem. Hevel brought a good korban, Cain brought a garbage korban. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu accepted Hevel's korban, his sacrifice, and Cain, he rejected it. So Cain got upset. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives him a limud that we need to learn from. He says to Cain, why are you annoyed? And why has your countenance, why is your face fallen? Surely if you improve yourself, you shouldn't be annoyed. You shall bear your iniquity. You made a mistake here. And if you do not improve yourself, the sin rests at your door. In so many words, what is HaKadosh Baruch Hu saying to Cain? He says, why are you so annoyed? Why are you so turned off? If you plan on doing tshuva and giving me a new korban, then it's the past. Why are you even upset? But if you're planning on continuing with the sins, then you're going to get more punished. The sin is sitting at the door, meaning the situation's going to get much worse. What is HaKadosh Baruch Hu teaching us in Sefer Bereshit? Turning off only applies to somebody who doesn't want to be on. Meaning, you telling people the punishment, it only hurts someone to the extent where they become less Jewish, if you will, less religious, if you will, only if they didn't want to be religious in the first place. Only if they didn't want to do tshuva in the first place. Only if they pretty much didn't want to be bothered. They want to do whatever they want. Meaning, you didn't actually make the situation worse. It was already bad as it is. You don't make someone that's not religious worse. He's already as bad as can be. The situation may also hurt the guy that wants to do tshuva, but that pain is worth it. Now, one time I told my personal story, and a young kid asked me, why'd you have all those surgeries? And I said, because I needed to. He goes, yeah, but they hurt so much, all those surgeries. Every time the doctor comes and you pay him money. Imagine this. You pay the guy money. You pay the guy tens of thousands of dollars. For what? To cut you up like a steak. And you're not even sure if he ate you or not because you were sleeping the whole time. You don't know what's going on, but the guy's cutting you up like a steak and you're paying him for it. If you wake up in the middle of the surgery, Hashem Yachem, how painful it is. If the anesthesia is not enough, ooh wah, you're going to have a lot of fun. Now, why would you pay somebody hundreds of thousands of dollars to get cut up over and over again, surgery after surgery, month after month, for years? Why? Why would you pay somebody to have a surgery? Chazaku Baruch. Ari says to live. What do you mean to live? This pain that I'm going to get right now is worth it for the life that I'll get after, for the pleasure that I'll get after. When you teach somebody about the punishments of the Torah, it's not intending to hurt them. That's not the agenda. That's not the goal. The goal is to get them to get hurt a little bit so they don't hurt a lot of bit later. So it hurts a little bit to hear that you're a goy in the eyes of Hashem, an idol worshiper, not even a good goy. Good goyim go to heaven. Mechalel Shabbat goes to Gehenom. Meaning, Rabotai, that it hurts. When I first heard that a Mechalel Shabbat is an idol worship, I got offended. When I heard that Hashem considers me an idol worship, I was very offended. I was upset. When I heard all these things, I was so upset, I wanted to protest. No one wanted to join me. No one wanted to join me. But guess what? I did tshuva. Why? Who's gonna listen to little nothing me? Well, Hashem's gonna change the Torah for me. So it hurt, but I realized I don't want this pain anymore. It's much easier to just do tshuva, to just change my actions. So when people tell you, no, we don't want to tell the rebuke, we don't want to tell people these difficult messages, this musar, because we're scared of turning them off, and so on and so forth, Rabotai, all I can tell you is that's the way of the Torah from Sefer Bereshit all the way till the end, Zot HaBracha. The entire Torah is one big rebuke for Am Yisrael. One big rebuke for the entire people of the world. That's the whole Torah. Meaning, when you do not want to tell people the truth, you are not allowed to be a rabbi. Go sell shoes. Go be a gardener. Go mow lawns. Don't be a rabbi. Why? That's your job. That's your job. Now, people say, wait a minute, but how come you speak, me personally, how come you speak, sometimes you yell, and it's scary. Why can't you speak like nice and calm? Maybe you can put a little, baby music in the background. Even the movies are scarier than what it is. Baruch Hashem, Joshua over here puts an extra mic on my voice. I'm scared of myself. I hear the movies, I'm scared of them. I'm like, who is this guy? He goes, it's you. If that's what I sound like, how come? Rabotai, I've been a speaker for over 20 years. In the Torah world for only 5-6 years. Different people have different styles. Some people speak monotone. Some people fluctuate their voices. I used to train people how to speak. But I can tell you that in the secular world, there are certain people that are more successful than others. Now, unfortunately today, one of the rabbis that I spoke to today to warn him about the impending danger coming to Florida told me that once in a while he listens to Tony Robbins, which is a Christian self-help motivational speaker, they call it. Now, why is Tony Robbins so successful? Why are his speeches specifically so successful? Why is his number one product that he sells is his CDs? How come it's not books? How come it's specifically his seminars? His seminars, for anyone who doesn't know, they literally get 5, 10, 20,000 people to show up. Because when he speaks, fire comes out. There's another guy by the name of Eric Thomas. Black guy. Looks like a football player. Wears a hat. Looks like an average Joe. But once he starts speaking, he'll wake up the dead. Why? Fire comes out of his mouth. If you were sleeping, you're awake now. You were depressed, now you're happy. I'm not suggesting you speak to any one of these people or listen to them. But you see them. What do they speak to their crowd to wake them up? Fire. Another guy. I think he's Bukharian. I'm not sure, but I think he's Bukharian. His name is Gary Vaynerchuk or something like that. Very successful businessman, but even more successful speaker. When he speaks with zealousness. He knows, he has confidence, he yells, he screams, he curses. Filthy, disgusting mouth. But guess what? That's what the fans want. They want somebody to punch them in the face a few times, wake them up into reality. Where do you think this stuff comes from? It comes from the Torah. One of the most successful Kiruv rabbis in the history, Arab Nisim Yagin, built communities all over the world. I'm not talking about helped a few people do tshuva. Built communities in New York, in New Jersey, in Panama. Everywhere you go, he did something there. You don't even have to understand Hebrew. You listen to him, you do tshuva for something. When he spoke, he made netilat yadayim, just washing your hand, the scariest thing you ever heard about. Without saying anything like I say. He doesn't even talk about genom to the details that I do. But just his voice, fire. Fire. Rav Mizrahi Shichyeh, and many other rabbis. Rav Spadron. You don't have to speak Yiddish, you don't have to speak Hebrew, you don't have to speak any language. You hear his voice, you start getting scared. Why? That's the way of the Torah. That's the way of the Torah, to wake up the sleeping neshama. Now, sometimes the rabbi doesn't want to speak or cannot speak this way. Or at least he says he can't speak this way. Or you say you can't speak that way. Tell you, why don't you go tell your friend that's not coming to the shiur to come? Like, no, I don't want to offend him. I don't want to embarrass him. I don't want to say something. I don't want to fight. I don't want to this. So, if you remember, we learned a series called the Bitachon series by the Beta Levi, Rav Soloveitchik Alav Shalom. So the Beta Levi says in Parashat Vayigash, what we read last week, it says something very interesting. It says that Yehuda first was talking to Yosef without knowing he's Yosef, and told him, listen, you're like Paro, you're powerful, but you have to understand that I cannot give you my brother Benjamin as a prisoner because it would hurt my father, it would hurt Abba, and you have to understand that Abba had 2 kids, his one already died, and Abba's only other kid is him, Benjamin, and Abba this, and Abba that, and I can't hurt Abba, and he mentioned Abba, 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 Yaakov, all the time, Abba, 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 50 times he mentioned it. So then, the Beta Levi says, look at what it says in the verse. Yosef says the following, Vayomer Yosef el Echav, Ani Yosef, Aod Avi Chai, Velo Yachlu Echav La'anot Oto Ki Niv'alu Mipanav. And Yosef says to his brothers, I am Yosef. Is my father still alive? But his brothers could not answer him because they were left disconcerted before him. They were scared. So Rabbi Abba ben Bardela, the Gemara says, what do you mean they were scared? Why they were so scared? Why they were so scared? Because they realized that they made a mistake. So the Beta Levi says the following. He says, what mistake? Yosef says, you kept telling me, Yehuda, that you can't give Benjamin because of Abba, Abba, Abba. I am Yosef. I am Abba's favorite son. How come you didn't think about Abba when you sold me for a pair of shoes? I'm his favorite son. I'm the son that he loved the most. How come you didn't have this thought about Abba and you love Abba and Abba and Abba when you sold me for the price of shoes? And all of the brothers had no answer. They knew he was right. They knew he was right, and they all, the Gemara says, they all died from fear. Died from fear. And Rabbi Abba Bardela says, Oy lanu miyom adin, oy lanu miyom atochecha. Woe to us on the day of judgment. Woe to us on the day of rebuke. If the tribes all died from fear of flesh and blood brother of theirs because of a mistake they made over 20 years ago, what will we have to say when HaKadosh Baruch Hu shows to us what we did? What is we did? The Beta Levi says, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says you have a mitzvah. Ocheach tocheach et amitecha. You must rebuke your brother. But you says, no, I don't feel comfortable rebuking my brother. I don't want to embarrass him. I'm embarrassed. My voice is too high. My voice is too low. I don't feel comfortable. Hashem says, no problem. Let's see. Oh, you didn't feel like telling anybody the truth? Okay, no problem. Let's see how you acted that throughout your life. And he starts playing you a movie of your life. And one day somebody took your seat. Somebody took your seat in the shul. And you lost your mind. All of a sudden you weren't shy. All of a sudden you weren't high tone, low tone. All of a sudden you wanted to tell this guy and his mother that this is your seat. How dare you? Ah, you know who I am. You know who I'm not. You know this. You know that. What did he do at the end, poor guy? He just stole your seat for a little bit. What's the big deal? What happened? What happened that one time that you needed a raise, but your boss didn't want to give it to you? And you gave it to him. Oh, you know what I did for this company? I built this company. Who would this company will be without? How come you're not monotone? How come you have words to say suddenly? How come you suddenly have words to say when it came to your own kishke? Came to your own stomach, came to your own life, you for money, for honor, for kavod. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to tell us, how come you had honor? But when it came to my kavod in Shamayim, all of a sudden you're mute. You can't say a single word. How come? That's what Bet Levi says. Oy lanu miyom adin. Oy lanu miyom atochecha. Woe to us that when it came to the honor of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we had nothing to say. This generation, Rabotai, is a generation that many of us are committing this crime against Hashem without even realizing it's a crime. Very few are fighting for the honor of Hashem. For the sake of fighting for the honor of Hashem, if you remember, just a week ago, I told you there's a misinformation in the media about what happened in the synagogue in Los Angeles, in Beverly Hills, by the name of Nissa, Persian shul, that was defiled, if you will, by some hoodlum that came into the synagogue at early in the morning on a Shabbat and desecrated the shul, threw all the Sifrei Torah on the ground, ripped books, and so on and so forth. And all the Jewish people are screaming foul, anti-Semitism in the in the media. We're victims. And then I told you guys, this is the shul that has VIP parking on Shabbat. You drive your little Mercedes, your Bentley, your Ferrari, whatever it is, to the synagogue on Shabbat. They have a little guy, taking your car from you. Says, Senor, Shabbat Shalom, Senor, and still have the audacity to call themselves Orthodox. Now, you would think that these people would get the message after their shul got defiled, got ruined on Shabbat. You'd figure, okay, maybe we should do tshuva. Well, guess what? They're just like you and me. They're also stubborn. Maybe a little bit more than us, though. Why? On New Year's Eve, for the Gregorian calendar, December 31st, they had a concert with 6 Arab singers. None of them are Jews. Inside the synagogue, singing secular songs and having mixed dancing inside the synagogue. Mixed dancing inside the synagogue. Hashem yirachem aleinu. The Sefer Hasidim says, any place that has mixed dancing, it's full of demons. And all of those demons go with the people to the house. Here's the flyer, for anyone who doesn't believe me. This is the flyer of the mixed dancing party in the synagogue. New Year's party.
Where? Which country?
Beverly Hills, Los Angeles. It's in America.
Even in Arabic language.
Yes, of course. Oh, and by the way, in case you are hungry, they're giving glatt kosher food. In Gehenom, they also serve glatt kosher food. The kol is glatt kosher. That's not meat or dairy. It's parv. The kol, the retamim that they feed, such reshaim that do such things, the Gemara says, Reshaim, they feed them hot coals. What kind of hot coals? They tell you it's gechalim retamim. What is this gecha? What is this special? What is this different? There's a style, there's a FIFA, there's Nike, there's Adidas. He goes, yes, there is. There's different types of gechalim, different types of coal. This coal never goes out. That's what they feed such people that make a public chilul Hashem, have a New Year's party with mixed dancing inside a Orthodox synagogue, and they still want to call this guy running the place a rabbi. How come you don't hear about this in the media? How come you don't hear about this in the Igud? How come you don't hear about this anywhere in Jewish world? How come nobody in the community is crying foul? You want to go have a mixed dancing party? Go do it in a church. Go do it somewhere else. Why inside a shul? Sefer Torah. How come no one's saying anything? Everyone's quiet, like mutes. Some guy from Florida has to scream foul. How come no one says anything? Guess what? This brings a kitrug on all of us. All of Klal Yisrael gets punished for this. Not just them. Don't think that I'm mentioning it for them. You think they're going to listen to me? You think people like this are going to listen to me? They're going to make fun of me. That's what they're going to do. I'm talking to you guys. I'm talking to people that are watching because you're going to get the effect of this also. Why? Kol Yisrael Aravim Zeh Lezeh. All of Am Yisrael is responsible. Now, many people think that Chabad is part of the reason of why the Torah world cooled off, because Chabad today accepts everybody, Goyim, Jews, monks, monkeys, whatever they are, you'll find it in one of their Chabad centers. I'm here to tell you it's not true. It's not true. I'm not here to defend Chabad of today. I'm here to defend Chabad, period. Anyone that knows real Chabad knows that Friedman and his friend Tab and the rest of these Reshaim that tell you that there's no Gehenom, that tell you that there's no punishment, they're not even remotely close or similar to real Chabadniks. Real Chabadniks that you read about fought for the smallest mitzvah by sacrificing their life. You read the bio, to remain a Jew, a book, to remain a Jew. He's a Chabadnik. Rav Zilber, alav shalom. He literally put his life on the line for every single mitzvah in the Torah while he was in prison in situations that no one can even imagine we are living in Gehenom. He put the entire Torah he fulfilled. Inside jail. Inside Auschwitz. Inside a place similar to Auschwitz. He was fighting the Yevsexia. He tells stories of other Chabadnik tzaddikim that fought for the Torah and put on the mitzvah of tzitzit when they knew the guy is going to find them, is going to shoot them in the face. They fulfilled it, no questions asked. But guess what? It doesn't even have to go that far. Before the recent Lubavitcher Rebbe that passed almost 30 years ago, his father-in-law, his name was the Rebbe Yosef Yitzchak Schneerson. He's known by a few names. Also the Rebbe Rayatz. So Rav Schneerson was a Ish Kodesh that he himself have quoted in the past, saw that many of the students weren't exactly following the real tradition of Chabad. Many of them turned it into more of a minhag than a way to serve Hashem. They were focusing more on the drinking and the clothes than they were on the Torah. Now, Rav Schneerson, his father was also a Ish Kodesh, Rav Shalom Dobver. And he fought against the Yevsexia, which were the anti-Torah Jews, for many years. And one day his father tells him that we have a very serious problem, unlike something we've seen in almost 2,000 years. What's the problem? He says these Reshaim, these Yevsexia, have some influence in the government. They're doing everything possible to destroy the Torah, but now they're going to make it look like they're building the Torah. The best way to destroy something is by making it look like you're doing the opposite. And they've appointed a certain Rasha that doesn't know anything about Torah, but claims that he's an expert in Jewish history, and they appointed him as the chief rabbi. His name was Rabbi Krebs. And this guy is a Rasha Merusha, this Rabbi Krebs, and he has a plan to destroy the Torah in a way that we haven't seen since the Greeks. What's his way? He is going to outlaw the studying of Gemara, the studying of oral Torah. How is he going to outlaw it? He has a few Reshaim friends that he has, a few other crooked rabbis, that they've been taking all of the tough things that are mentioned in the Gemara, and they're going to put it together and they're going to distort it, and then they're going to bring it to the Goyim, to the Russians, and say, look, we want to be like you, we're Jews, and as the chief rabbi, I want to make Jews friends with the Russians, not enemies. So what do we need to do? We need to reform and modernize the Torah. How do we reform and modernize the Torah? By removing their ability to study this Gemara. Now the Russian's going to say, what do I care about this Gemara? No Gemara. He goes, no, Mr. Russia, look what it says over here in the Gemara. It says this, it says that, it says this against the Goyim, it says this against Yoshke, it says all types of things against everybody else. And he's planning on taking, this rabbi is planning on taking this and bringing this to the Russians. So, Rav Schneerson is sent on a mission by his father. Go and get to this guy. Somehow, this rabbi is protected by all types of people. He's got bodyguards coming out of his ears, because he's in the pockets of the wicked people. Get to him somehow. So Rav Schneerson gets to town, tries to get to him. How much are you going to get to him? Oh, you have to bribe this one 100,000. Oh, that's not enough. 100,000, 200,000, 500,000. They can't do anything. He comes back all the way back home, and he sees his father. He says, Abba, I'm sorry, I can't get to the guy. He's protected in every way. Can't get to him. I was willing to bribe. Nothing. His Abba was also Ish Kodesh. Huge. And he knew that he doesn't have to give him a 3-hour shiur to explain to him what he needs to do. What did he do? 2 minutes. He took off, he showed him his talit. He took it off. He says, you see this talit? This talit makes all the demons die. This talit makes all the demons die. If you simply follow the law and do what it says. You put talit, you put tzitzit, all the demons that are trying to hurt you, die. Rav Schneerson was Talmid Chacham. Understood. What does he understand? I got to get this stuff done. Why? Following what my father says. I got to do it. If I do exactly what he says, all the demons are going to die somehow. And he made it a point. Okay, he turned around, went back all the way back to go. And this time he said, I'm going for the whole thing. I'm not going to any messenger. I'm not going to anyone to bribe. I'm going to his house. I'm going to Rav Krep's house and try my luck there. See what happens. He's either going to kill me or I'm going to live. Who knows what's going to happen. But I'm going there. He goes to his house, B'siyati Dishmaya. No guards are around. Nobody is around. He knocks on the door, figuring maybe nobody's home. Who opens the door? This Rasha, Rabbi Krebs. Says, yes. He goes, yeah, I'm the Lubavitcher Rebbe's, the original Lubavitcher Rebbe, Rav Dobver's son. He goes, oh, the head of Chabad's son knows where to come to. Oh, you want to talk to me? Come in. He doesn't know what this meeting is about. He thinks, so finally Chabad broke and became reformed, like me. That's what he thinks. So he starts chit-chatting with him. And Rav Schneerson, after he lets him talk a little bit, he goes, listen, I don't want to take too much of your time, but when can I get a meeting with you? He said, right now, what do you want? What do you need? Anything you need, I can help you. He says, I heard that you have some plans for the Torah or something. I want to talk to you about that. He goes, oh, you heard? Yeah, the guy's so happy. He thinks that he's coming to compliment him. Because, yeah, we have chidushim. We have new insights for the Torah. We're going to modernize the Torah. And we're going to do this. And we're going to change this. And we're going to change that. He gives him his whole account. And Rav Schneerson sits there patiently, listening to him, trying to figure out what's my game plan here. But he waits. When you don't know what to do, you wait. And he's talking. And then he's trying to impress him. And then this Krebs guy says, but you know, everything I say, I have sources for it. Because what sources you have? He goes, all my friends, for years, we've been gathering all types of things that, if you're not a Talmid Chacham, you don't know what's going on, can confuse you. You're like the Christians. He goes, yeah? He goes, yeah, you want me to show it to you? He goes, yeah, please. So now in those days, there's no copy machines. There's no, I'll give you a USB here, the whole file's on his USB. He has the handwritten original copy. He goes into his place, he takes the book out, he has this notebook, and it's handwritten handwritten notes that he's gathered for years from him and his wicked friends. And he gives it to Rav Schneerson. Rav Schneerson takes the moment that he has. He doesn't have much time to think. He doesn't have much time to discuss. He doesn't even know how long this is going to be in his hands. All he knows is that if this goes to the Russians, Jewish people are going to die. And he takes the opportunity and he starts ripping it apart. But I don't mean ripping it in two and you could staple it together, tape it together, and it's the same. I'm talking about into little crumbs. Now in the beginning, this Krebs, he thought he was like some scholar, some elite. So he's like, oh, if you would, please do not do that. You know, like one of those appropriate people. And Rabbi Stier said, no, appropriate. He's ripping it to shreds, to nothing. Crumbs are going, stop it. Then he starts cursing him, and he sees he's not stopping. He starts hitting him, starts beating him up. He's not letting this thing go. Until the last piece is all over the place. Every little page, every little crumb, nothing is left of it. And before the guards can come out, he runs out and B'siyata Dishmaya miraculously makes it back home unharmed. And this Krebs guy shortly later died. Got sick and died. Now, that's Rabotai fire. That's fire for Kedusha. You don't wait till you have an appropriate time or an appropriate statement or an appropriate stage. When there are Jewish people in danger, there's no time to be appropriate. The Mesilot Shel Nefesh quotes a sefer called Parpaot LeTorah. And in his sefer, it talks about a meeting that the head rabbi of Tveria, Tiberias, Rav Zev Werner, had with other fellow rabbis that came to him and told them about all the different problems that they were having, that they needed the rabbi's involvement. His helper, who's also a rabbi, stood up in defense of the rabbi saying, listen, the Rav has so much stuff to do, he's too busy to deal with all of these things, he has no time to learn even, you have to leave him alone. You guys have to deal with this. The minute he said this, Rav Werner stood up and passionately said, look what we read in Parashat Ki Tisa. HaKadosh Baruch Hu has a chavruta session, a study session with Moshe Rabbeinu for 40 days and 40 nights. They're learning chavruta. He's the best teacher in the world with the best student in the world. But then HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells Moshe Rabbeinu in Parashat Ki Tisa, chapter 32, verse number 7. Vaydaber Adonai el Moshe, lech red ki shichet amecha. Hashem spoke to Moshe, saying, go descend, like go down from the mountain, because your people that you brought up from the land of Egypt have become corrupt. Lech red ki shichet amecha. So Rav Werner says, what is Hashem saying here? What is Moshe Rabbeinu doing in Mount Sinai? What is he doing? He's learning Torah. He's doing the greatest thing in the world. And who is he doing it with? With Hashem himself. Now we learn already from the Gemara to just simply get up in the middle of your Torah study and treat it like it's mundane. It's not a good thing. It's a bad thing. So you're telling me to stop learning Torah? Kadosh Baruch Hu, you're telling me to stop learning Torah? Rav Werner says from here we learn something critical. HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself says, no matter how big of a rabbi you are, no matter how big of a businessman you are, no matter how big of a politician you are, no matter how big of whatever you are, if you're a Jew, you have to be worried about Klal Israel, which means that even if you're a big rabbi, even if you're a big macher, even if you're a big whatever you are, if you're seeing Klal Israel sinning, stop what you're doing and go help them do tshuva. Why? Because them sinning is much, much worse than the good you're producing from learning or anything else that you're doing. So Rav Werner says, not only do I have time to help these issues, but when my people are sinning, my Torah doesn't even count. I have to go help them. There's no time to be polite. There's no time to be soft-spoken. There's no time to be patient for things to fix themselves up. And this is the main message that every single person needs to understand. Not everybody is a speaker, but we don't ask you to be. Hashem doesn't ask you to be. But every single person can do something to help Klal Yisrael wake up. Some people can donate money. Some people can donate time and skill. Some people can do other things. The point is that everybody needs to contribute to something. Not because you're going to get anything out of it, but rather because if you don't do it, your situation will also get worse. It's no longer just about helping people to do tshuva because you care about them. The situation is getting so bad that if we don't start helping people do tshuva, the situation will get worse for us too. The religious people, the people that are trying to do good. That's what happened in Germany during World War II. That's what happened in the Beit HaMikdash 2,000 years ago. When there's a decree, everybody is under the magnifying glass. Chachamim told us, Rami Volozhin says that if a Jew doesn't keep Shabbat, then Hashem is going to send the Goy to do Havdalah. Meaning, Havdalah means Havdalah, that you do at the end of Shabbat, but Havdalah also means separation. If the Jew does not sanctify himself by keeping Shabbat, Hashem will send the Goy to separate himself. Separate from what? It says when a Jew doesn't keep Shabbat, in the eyes of Hashem, he's considered like an idol worshiper. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu needs to send the Goy, the idol worshipping Goy, to remind him that you're not an idol worshiper, really. You're not an idol worshiper. Even if you act like one, you're not an idol worshiper. But you'll get punished like one. Now, many people are surprised that right now, in New York specifically, we're getting attacked left and right. The religious community is getting attacked mostly by people we've been having relatively peaceful relationships with, the black people. There were some issues almost 30 years ago, 25 years ago, but for the most part, the Jews and the blacks have gotten along. Many black people have converted over the years, Baruch Hashem, and continue to convert. I have many friends that are black. They're fantastic human beings. Quite frankly, growing up, I had more friends that were black than white. Always got along with them better. But I'm also not surprised at what's happening. There was a guy that came out in an interview today. He interviewed some people. I think his name is Ami, something like that. He had like a 3-minute video. He walked in the streets of New York and asked the black people, how come you're seeing that there's so much anti-Semitism specifically coming from the black people? Like, what's the problem? And one after another told them about the mistreatments that they're getting from the Jews and the jealousy between them, of how the Jews are, rich in their eyes and they're controlling the buildings and they're not being nice to the black people and they're increasing their prices and so on and so forth. All this anti-Semitic nonsense that's already been around. I mean, the Jews, some of them are successful, some of them are failures. Some of them are nice, some of them are bad. But in essence, right now Hashem turned the anti-Semitic button in their mind to say, wait a minute, you don't like Jews. Why? Because of all these judgmental, nonsensical things that I'm going to put in your mind.
I'm Ami Horowitz, and I'm here in Brooklyn, New York. where there's been an explosion of anti-Semitic violence going on. There's been a deluge of anti-Semitic attacks in Brooklyn over the last couple of weeks committed exclusively by members of the black community. Over the course of 2 hours, we spoke with local residents as to why they think African Americans in Brooklyn might be attacking Jews. What's going on? What do you think is going on?
You know what I think is going on? Because it seems like I'm not being a racist or anti-Semitic, but
whenever someone starts with, "I'm not anti-Semitic, but," you know whatever comes next, it's not going to be good.
it seems like the Jewish people own all the buildings out here, and they own everything, and they're not sharing nothing.
They own everything. They're coming over here, they're taking over,
And
but
that's
they're not
why-
renting it back to us. See, they're kicking us out.
And I don't want to go back to World War II with Hitler and all that, but
Also, when you say Hitler and "but" in the same sentence, that's never good.
it seems like they own all the property, and they don't even try to help us.
We're not saying that it's right, but yeah, they trying to take over our buildings and stuff. They trying to make everything more expensive for us.
And Jewish is known to be rich for Brooklyn.
Right.
So, of course,
So is that a reason why you think the attacks are happening?
that is why the attacks are happening.
The have and have not.
Right.
That doesn't mean that's the majority thought over here. Not everybody in this neighborhood has a problem with Jews. I really think you're insulting African Americans by being in this neighborhood and asking that question.
The blacks are doing this to the Jews just to get by. It's not right. It's not right.
I taught my children love. Love conquers all. They're controlling all the jobs, the economic growth in the community.
Coming from their country
know they not building
into our country, and they trying to change up our country to how they live.
They're going to get the money from here, and they're going to send the money to the country. So
Which country? Not in
Not
which country?
Not in the United States.
That's not their country.
No,
So you think the Jews here are not really American?
they not.
So black people would have reason to attack Jews.
I wouldn't say they have reason to, but it is understandable because everybody taking from us.
Where's this coming from? Obviously, Am Yisrael is not doing so great when it comes to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But someone told me today something clever that I believe it's emet. You see, in this generation, it's much worse than my generation. My generation, it's right after hip-hop and rap came out. A few years after Beastie Boys and all of these types of people came out with rap. But everybody knows that no matter what you say, no matter who's the best and who's not, the music world, especially hip-hop and rap, is predominantly black people. And they're very good at it. And they made a lot of money doing it. And good for them. Now, what's the problem? The problem is that not only have this affected the secular Jews, but also the religious Jews, to the extent where now, in every yeshiva, in almost every house, the average Jewish kid wants to act like he's black, wants to hip-hop, wants to rap, wants to act like as if he came from the same background as them, like he came from the projects. He lives in a $2 million house, but he wants to act like he's hood. He wants to put his pants on his ankles like it's his style. Like he even knows what it means. He doesn't realize that means you're available in jail. That's what it means. You put your pants on your ankles, that's what it means, by the way. It means you're available for homosexuality in jail. Keep wearing your pants to your ankles, Mr. Jew. Black people shouldn't do it either. But needless to say, the Jews that think that they are not going to be noticed, guess what? Hashem noticed. You want to act like you're black? Okay, so I'll send the black people to remind you, you're not black. And you never will be. They have their culture, you have yours. Reminder. Reminder, this is not racism. This is reality. I have more friends that are black than most black people. This has nothing to do against them. This is against the Jews. The stupid Jews that got the thought in their mind that they can do things that don't belong to them. You got guys with kippahs on, breakdancing on YouTube. You got guys with kippahs on, rapping and doing all types of things. Now you're going to say, wait a minute, but didn't you just say a couple of weeks ago that the music by Nissim Black is allowed? Yes, it's allowed. Did I say you should do it? It's allowed. He's singing about Hashem. He's using a certain talent to sing about Hashem. But he's black, and that's where he came from. He can actually connect to it to a certain extent. What do you white boy have to do with it? What do you Bukharian boy have to do with it? What's it to you? What, they rapped in Bukhara? You want to learn to dance? Don't learn how to break dance. Learn the dancing of the Bukharians. It's a beautiful dance. You want to sing? Sing like a Jew. Why? Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't like you acting like a goy. It's not you. It's not you. Now, if you're a convert, you're a black guy, you want to rap, by all means, that's part of your tradition. It's where you came from, no problem. But don't forget, you're a Jew first, before black. The point is, Rabotai, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to Klal Israel, you're a Jew whether you like it or not. If you don't remember it, I'll send the non-Jew to remind you. That's what's happening right now. That's what's happening right now. This is exactly what's happening right now. You know how I know this is 100% emet? Because it's exactly what happened in Germany. The German singers, the famous politicians, one guy named Wagner, famous anti-Semite, wrote a letter to another famous Jew who was a famous musician in Germany. He says, your music is disgusting. You're a Jew. We are Germans. Jewish music, even though you think you're famous and you're good, you're only good for the Jews. You're never going to be a German. We can tell your music. How? He says, you Jews, your music is full of humility and sadness. Us Germans, our music is proud. You're never going to be a German, no matter what you do and how many times you convert to Christianity. Guess what? HaKadosh Baruch Hu is reminding us that all of this stuff is not for us. One of the most famous rappers, hip-hop artists, whatever you want to call them, in the world, Kanye West, has now officially become a missionary in action. He has a show right now that's going from pretty much every major super church with 100, 200,000 people or more is begging for him to come perform his new show for them. Why? He sings about Yoshke. Just like he started off his career 10, 15 years ago with a song about Yoshke. Now he's doing tshuva to idolatry. What is he doing? He's now becoming a missionary. He's going everywhere, performing and publicizing the New Testament. Hashem Yachem. Why, he's your favorite artist? You like him? So you have the Christian missionary in your house. Baruch haba. No, but I don't listen to that song. It doesn't make a difference. Doesn't make a difference. You know what it says? It says he knows where he came from, you don't. He knows where he came from. He's not confused about it at all. He'll tell you a million times. He's Christian, he's going to die Christian. You, on the other hand, you're not sure. Why? Because you want to act like him. He comes out with new pants, we buy it, no matter the price. He has new shoes, we buy it, no matter the price. He has a new way to act, we do it, no matter the price. That's what you see, all these kids, yeshiva, all of a sudden everybody has a suit that's 2 sizes too small. Where do you think that came from? Think that came from some Jewish guy from King's Highway? Why do you think all the yeshiva kids are wearing small suits? Their little brother's suit now. Everybody's suit is extra small. It's tight like a second layer of skin. Never in the history of suits looked like that until this disgusting generation. Why? Because they got it from one of these hip-hop artists. Specifically Kanye West, who knows who he is. And you don't. You don't. Why? Because you wear the suits like that. Going to a Beit Knesset today, You have to almost like put on sunglasses. You don't see. Why? No one looks Jewish. I'm not saying that you have to wear a three-piece suit, 3 sizes too big, or a sack. No. But at least look like a Jew. Stop acting like Kanye. You're not him. You're never going to be him. Even if you know how to bust some rhymes. You're never going to be him. There is never going to be a Kanye Jew. Never. No matter how good you are with lyrics, no matter how good you are, it's not you. HaKadosh Baruch Hu will not let it happen. And the fact that we are arguing in our mind right now, no, he's wrong, that's not cool, that's not right, he doesn't understand, I got so many friends. That stuff, that junk that you have in your head, that comes from people like Friedman. They make you believe that you can do whatever you want, and no one's going to care. Rabotai, you have to understand. There's a certain doctor. It's a good doctor, and a certain doctor is not a good doctor. One doctor comes to the patient and says, listen, you have to have surgery, this and that. So, hopefully it works out. He says, Doc, what do you mean hopefully it works out? Usually I don't get the hopefully from the doctor. How come? Because I'm a little bit, your surgery requires me to cut you up. So the patient's like, oh, yeah, doc, that's what surgery usually is. What do you mean? You okay? He goes, yeah, no, I'm no problem. Cutting, no problem. He goes, so what's the problem? He goes, I'm disgusted by blood. He goes, but you're a doctor. He goes, yeah, I'm a surgeon too. He goes, so what do you do if you're disgusted by blood? He goes, I just wait for you to stop bleeding. So I said, hopefully it works out. That's not a doctor, that's a murderer. Rabotai, to be a rabbi, you have to sometimes deal with blood. You have to sometimes deal with disgusting stuff. You have to sometimes say things that are not so pleasant. You have to act like you don't necessarily want to act, to wake people up, to say to them things that they may not want to hear, but they need to. Why? Because if you don't do it, if you wait for everything to be clear, for everything to be pleasant, for the blood to go away, only to have Hanukkah parties, only to have this party and that party, and for everything to be pleasant, and guess what? You're not a rabbi. You're a murderer. And that's what we have many of today. So although none of the things that I said today may be pleasing to anybody's ear, they're all true. And it's a rebuke for ourselves as well as for anyone else that wants to listen, that it's time for us to wake up, because HaKadosh Baruch Hu is doing things to wake us up, and the signs are getting bigger and bigger. Just so you know, and we're going to finish with this point. We have anti-Semitism increasing by over 50% in the last couple of months. That's one. New York, the biggest population of Jews anywhere in the world outside of Israel, is the main place. On top of that, you have the Christian missionaries picking up the ante. Their top rappers, their top politicians, their top organizations are investing tenfold into missionizing in Jewish communities, and they're coming over here. They're coming over here. They already have places here, but there's more of them coming here to Florida. If you don't know what you're talking about, if you don't know what's happening, you have no emunah in Hashem, you're not scared of sin, you don't have yirat shamayim, I'm telling you already, they're going to eat you up alive. That's why the Gemara in Masechet Avodah Zarah says, you have to know enough to deal with the heretic. Aside from that, you have a situation globally. The attack that happened by the government of the United States against the leaders in Iran and killed somebody, many Jews are celebrating. There's nothing to celebrate here. That means the war is one step closer. That means the war with Iran is one step closer. That means the end of our opportunity to do tshuva is one step less. We're running out of time. Running out of time. Once the big war blows up, it won't last very long. Don't think it's going to be several years. Once bombs start exchanging, we have a problem. We're out of time, it's called. There's nothing to celebrate about this terrorist dying. We don't want him alive, but what's happening right now is the Kadosh Baruch Hu is giving us signs. A lot of them. A lot of signs. If that's not enough, because everybody thinks, nah, but I'm okay, I got money. Well, I'm pretty good at money. I was dealing with money for almost 20 years on Wall Street. And I can tell you, without a shadow of a doubt, that the market worldwide in every aspect, whether it's currency, metals, or stocks, or real estate, or everything, is going to crash. And it's going to be a crash that's going to make 2008 look like child's play. When it's going to happen, I don't know, but it's going to happen. And it's going to happen in such a massive way, you're going to regret you have any money. Because it's going to be worthless. Right now, people are very sad about what happened to Venezuela. Over the last several years, they went from being the 12th biggest economy to being nothing. Well, the same thing is happening in many places that are much bigger than Venezuela. Someone sent me some information to show us that it's happening in Africa. The government is literally creating a revolution. There's going to be a civil war in Africa because the government has taken possession of certain land, doesn't want to return it. In so many words, there's such massive crime by the government over there that it's only a matter of, it could be days, hours, weeks, whatever it is. It's only a matter of time before there's a civil war in Africa. We're not talking about a nation of 10 million people here. That's just Africa. Then you have India. India right now is experiencing hyperinflation. Hyperinflation to the extent that from week to week sometimes the cost of goods, staples, food, fruits, and so on can increase by 20-30%. The government is destroying its own economy exactly the same way that Venezuela did. And they are on the verge of collapsing, possibly within less than a year, maybe even less than a few months. Some say it's going to happen in a few months, some say it's going to be a year. Either way, no one's happy about what's happening. All I can tell you is if India falls, the rest of the world falls with it, because we're talking about 20% of the world's population, 1.5 billion people. All commerce has something to do with it. America's market has inflated to such an extent that nobody understands the pricing of anything. No one knows why your house now was 150,000, 200,000 a few years ago. Now it's 700,000. Brand new condo. For what? To live in Hollywood right next to the gangsters? $700,000 new 3-bedroom condo. Only a half a mile away from the worst crime in the country. For what? What are you paying for? People have no idea why things are priced that way. Stocks I don't follow, but I can tell you for sure they only went up since I retired. And they were already overpriced almost 10 years ago. When the crash falls, it's going to crash very big. Now people say, okay, what about cryptocurrency? If you didn't learn my shiurim about cryptocurrency from a couple of years ago, watch them. Yaron, Reuven, Bitcoin. They're all worthless. They're all going to be literally worthless, zero. All that crypto technology is good for making people lose money. That's all it is. It's all worthless. Regular currency, also not going to be worth very much. Why? Because the whole world's going to decline. Metals, anyone that thinks that metals are worth anything should read my articles on the internet that I wrote over 10 years ago. Why gold could never be a standard. All the people that invest in all types of metals thinking that this could be something significant, it cannot be. Not because I say it, because it's physically impossible. There are too many people and too little gold, too little silver for it to be any type of real currency. It's purely speculation. The point being, Rabotai, anyone that has money right now and is saving for this rainy day, you're making a mistake. You could save, you could have a few dollars to live your life, but if you are in a position to help Klal Israel do tshuva, that's what you should be investing in. Because that's the only thing that's really going to help you. And that's what they dealt with at the time of the Bet HaMikdash. There were many millionaires that regretted every penny they had because none of the money that they had was able to save their life. There was a woman that was one of the richest women in the world, lived in Yerushalayim. She told her servant, go buy me some bread. This stupid servant went to the store. He says, they ran out of the bread that you like. He said, okay, so buy anything. By the time he came back, he says, there's no bread. There's no bread left. She started throwing all the gold out of her house in the streets. And she died in front of everybody in the middle of the street. She says, what good is this gold and diamonds if it can't even buy me a piece of bread? This is what people need to understand. We're in a situation where Kadosh Baruch Hu is giving us probably the one final rebuke before the ones that are really, really dangerous come. The Christians are coming, the atheists are coming, the lefty liberals are teaching already in schools. All of this stuff is happening. The only thing that we can do, only thing, is learn and help other people do tshuva. That's the only thing we can do. Nothing else that you can do is going to matter. Making more money is not going to help you. Starting a new business, for what? Hashem gives you parnasah with or without the business. You have to understand, this is serious stuff. You want to act like I didn't say it? You want to act like you didn't hear it? Be my guest. You're at your own peril. You do what you want, but at least you know this is what's out there. No one wanted to do anything about what was happening in Germany before it happened, except a few tzaddikim that no one wanted to listen to. Rav Wasserman started crying to people. Chafetz Chaim was crying to people door to door. No one wanted to listen. I'm not even their shoes. What I can tell you is what I say is emet. So please, take the Torah seriously. Stop listening and supporting these fake organizations and fake rabbis. Only allow Kedusha to come into your mind. Don't waste your time thinking that you're a non-Jew. Act like a Jew, look like a Jew, be a Jew, and enough with the nonsense. Enough. You should be proud of what you are. Let them be what they are. You be what you are. And I promise you that's only going to be good for you. It's only going to be good for you. If you act like a Jew, then the Gentile's going to want to be a Gentile. Why? Because then he has somebody to look up to. Then he has somebody who says, you know what, maybe I'll convert. Maybe this, maybe that. But the Gentile's going to look up to you. He's not going to compete with you. Right now you're competing with him. Yeah, you're in his turf. Sometimes the Gentiles are vicious. Some Jews are acting vicious. Sometimes they're greedy. The Jews are acting greedy. That's the opposite of Judaism. You're not allowed to take advantage of non-Jews. You're not allowed to be greedy. You're not allowed to take advantage of these people. If you can help them, help them. But don't ever think you're just like them. This, Rabotai, is a reminder for me as well as for you of what we are and what we're not. Be'ezrat Hashem, this helps Klal Yisrael do tshuva, get closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, avoid shakranim, avoid the liars that tell you that Hashem does not have a reward and punishment. Listen to our sages of 800 years ago, like Rabbeinu Yonah. Listen to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Listen to Yosef HaTzadik. Listen to Moshe Rabbeinu. Listen to all of these sources, and Be'ezrat Hashem, sanctify HaKadosh Baruch Hu's name higher and higher to the extent where the Goyim can say, that's something to look up to. You guys are really the light of the nations. Baruch Adonai Le'olam. Amen ve'amen.